Hi guys, it's Emily, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to create a section view of a part. So the reason why we would want to create a section view is to gain more clarity about the internal features of a part. We can see in this problem that from our top view we have several holes and a slot. It's not very difficult to see those features, but when we look at the front view, we can see all of these hidden lines. And that can be quite confusing when we are trying to figure out the location of these internal features and their dimensions. So that's why we would want to make a section view of this part, so we can eliminate this front view and understand what's going on the inside of our part. So the first step to creating a section view is to construct our cutting plane line. In this case, since we are working with a very symmetrical part, our cutting plane line will go straight down the middle. And we're going to create our cutting plane line in our top view. So our cutting plane line is going straight down the middle of our part, and the cutting plane line is the type of line it is a phantom line. So a phantom line is a long dash with two short dashes every so often. So it looks something like this. And so I'm also going to fix my center lines as well. Okay. And so now we have our cutting plane line, and it's important that we label this line as well. So at each arrowhead, I'm just labeling the ends with A and A. So to understand this concept a bit better, if I scroll down, I've created a 3D sketch of what I think the part will look like. And so we can see that I've created my AA section view cutting plane, and you can see to the right that I have this is what it would look like if we actually cut our part down the center. So you can see the internal features of these holes, and we can see how we can see the depth of the slot and the depth of this counterbore hole. So this is what we are aiming to draw when we are going to be drawing our section view, except we're going to be drawing the orthographic view or the 2D view of this 3D view. Okay, and so if we scroll back up, the easiest way for us to now construct our section view is to do it using the miter line method. So first, I'm going to draw my axes. And this is just separating the views that I have. So I'm just making our miter line, which is our 45-degree angle line. Okay, and so now the next step is to create extension lines from both our front view and our top view that extend into our right side view drawing space. So this is our right side view over here. And it's important to note that we are in third angle projection. So we are projecting our part in the third quadrant. So we use the top view, the front view, and the right side view always. So I'm just drawing my little third angle projection symbol in the bottom right corner right here, because it's important to always put this symbol because it represents, it tells the reader, whoever is reading your drawing, that we are in the third angle projection. Okay, and so now we can construct our extension lines. So I'm starting in my front view, extending them into my right side view. And now in my top view, I'm going to do the same thing, except when I reach my miter line, which is actually not long enough, when I reach my miter line, I'm going to stop. So I'm just going to add all these lines. Oops, I missed one. Okay, oops. Okay, so once I reach the miter line, then I'm going to extend all of these lines downward into my right side view drawing space. Okay, and so now all of our extension lines are drawn, and we can start locating the different features of this part. So I'm going to start from the bottom. I know that the bottom is just going to be a straight line because I don't see any hidden lines in the top view or the front view that show that there's some sort of gap or interruption or hole that interferes with the bottom portion of the part. And so if I look at the top view and I start in the front, I have this slot here. So, actually, I lied. We did not finish completing our extension lines. We did not make our extension lines from our top view to our front view. And this is probably the more important extension lines. So I'm just doing that very quickly. Okay, and so I'm making these extension lines. So now we can go back and look at our slot again. So if we're looking at our slot, we can see that the slot in our front view does not go all the way to the bottom. And the way that we know that is by seeing in our top view that there's this visible line here. So because there's a visible line, it means that there's material on the bottom of that slot. And there's another visible line in our front view right there. And that is going to represent how deep the slot goes. And I lied again to you guys. I forgot an extension line right here. So sorry about that. Okay. And so if we extend the extension lines that represent our slots, if I go from the top view down into my right side view, and if I go from this visible line to this visible line, we can see that this represents the location of our slot in our right side view. And we also know that these lines exist as well, the two lines that I just drew, because that represents the side of the part on the other side of the slot, or on either side of the slot. So those lines, so these lines right here represent this sort of edge, if that makes sense. Okay, and so now if we go further into the part in the top view, we can see that we have a visible line here and a visible line here and the top of the part here. And so if we follow this visible line via our extension lines, we can see that that this represents a ledge. So we can see that our part is raised a bit from that slot location. So we draw in those visible lines. And then the top part, there's no other visible line that is going straight across the part that indicates that there's another cutout. So we know that the part is going to go straight across. And same thing with the back. Now we're just left with the two holes. And the two holes, if I start with this smaller one, if we move or if we trace along our extension lines, we can see that this hole goes there. And we can see from our vertical extension lines from our top view to our front view that those hidden lines represent the hole going through the entire part. So that means I can draw in those two visible lines to represent that hole. And now moving on to the larger hole, we can see that this circle, if we trace down our extension lines from our top view to our front view, we can see that this is the depth of this larger diameter. And it starts at the top of the part as well. And then from our top view, if we add in the proper extension line, which I also forgot, from our top view, if we trace along that extension line that I just made, we can see where this hole or where this counter bore is located. Now I drew this horizontal line because I drew it straight across, even though there's going to be a through hole as well, because there's a difference in diameter. And so whenever you have a difference in diameter, there's always going to be a visible line to show that's going to be present. So if I go back to my sketch, you can see here, this is the part that I'm talking about. So that's why I'm drawing this little curved line, because this smaller line, this smaller circle, if we trace down our extension lines, goes to the bottom of the part. So this is also a through hole, like the tiny hole that we just drew. So now we can draw in our through hole, and we're basically done. So now if I just erase all these extension lines to show our work a bit more clearer, or to make our work a bit more clearer, we can see that we've constructed our right side view. And soon we're going to replace this this label with a section view, label. So we can't forget also that we need to add in our center lines. So those center lines always are representing our circular features. So we need those to be present where we have our holes and our slots. So a center line is just a long dash and short dash. Okay, and then the last thing that we need to do to complete our section view is to add our hatch lines. And hatch lines are usually 45 degrees, and they are always equally spaced apart from each other. So you would also be, measuring out your hatch lines so that they are equally spaced. Alrighty. So now we've completed our section view, and the last step, and probably one of the most important steps, is to label our view. So the way that we label this is we write section, the word section, AA, or whatever label that you gave your cutting plane line. So this should match with this. Okay? And so that is how you complete a section view.